Hungary blocks €50 billion of EU funding for Ukraine. Hungary has blocked €50 billion in EU aid for Ukraine, just hours after an agreement was reached on starting membership talks. Summary of the night shift veto for the extra money to Ukraine. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán said after Thursday's talks in Brussels, EU leaders said the aid negotiations would resume early next year. Ukraine is critically dependent on EU and US funding as it continues to fight occupying Russian forces. The aid blocking was announced by Mr. Orbán shortly after the EU leaders decided to open membership talks with Ukraine and Moldova and to grant candidate status to Georgia. Hungary, which maintains close ties with Russia, has long opposed membership for Ukraine, but did not veto that move. Mr. Orbán left the negotiating room momentarily in what officials described as a pre-agreed and constructive manner, while the other 26 leaders went ahead with the vote. He told Hungarian state radio on Friday that he had fought for 8 hours to stop his EU partners, but could not convince them. Ukraine's path to EU membership would be a long process anyway, he added, adding that Parliament in Budapest could still stop it happening if it wanted to. Commenting on Mr. Orbán's opposition to the aid, Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte said, "We still have some time. Ukraine is not out of money in the next few weeks. We agreed with the 26 countries," he added. Viktor Orbán, Hungary, "We're not yet able to do that. I am fairly confident we can get a deal early next year. We are thinking of late January." At a news briefing in the early hours of Friday, Mr. Michel confirmed that all but one EU leaders had agreed on the aid package and wider budget proposals for the bloc, although Sweden still needed to consult its parliament. "We will revert to this matter early next year and will try to get unanimity," he said. The loans and grants were to keep the country ticking over, helping fund public services, wages, and pensions. Ukraine is also desperately seeking the approval of a $61 billion US defense aid package. But that decision is also being delayed because of major disagreements between Democrat and Republican lawmakers. Ukraine's counteroffensive against Russia's occupying forces ground to a halt at the start of winter, and there are fears that the Russians could simply outgun Ukraine. Last week, President Zelensky's wife, Olena, warned in a BBC interview that Ukrainians were in mortal danger of being left to die if Western countries did not continue their financial support. Mr. Zelensky was delighted by the EU's announcement on the membership. "This is a victory for Ukraine, a victory for all of Europe, a victory that motivates, inspires, and strengthens," he wrote in a post on X. Ukrainian politician Kira Rudik added that, "We were really elated following the news about EU membership talks, saying it showed Ukraine has a future right now." But she said the feeling was now bittersweet because of the funding being blocked, which she called a huge frustration. "It is impossible to have a European future without winning the war," she told the BBC. Earlier this week, a senior Ukrainian official told the BBC that for now, EU membership talks are more important than the €50 billion because of the message it sends to both the Ukrainian people and Vladimir Putin. And there's some confidence in Kyiv that Brussels will be able to find a way to channel fresh economic funds, by hook or by crook. Ukraine and neighboring Moldova applied to join the EU after Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. They were both given candidate status last June, while Georgia was passed over at the time. Moldovan President Maya Sandu said it was an honor to share the path to EU accession with Ukraine. "We wouldn't be here today without Ukraine's brave resistance against Russia's brutal invasion," she wrote. Earlier this year, Moldova alleged that Russia was seeking to seize power in Chisinau. White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan welcomed the EU's historic move to open accession talks with Ukraine and Moldova, calling it a crucial step toward fulfilling their Euro-Atlantic aspiration. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz praised his fellow leaders for showing a strong sign of support, adding that it was clear that both Ukraine and Moldova belong to the European family. A diplomat at the summit said it was Scholz's idea for Mr. Orbán to leave the room to enable the vote to go through. The Hungarian leader later distanced himself from his colleagues with a video message. On Facebook, EU membership of Ukraine is a bad decision. Hungary does not want to participate in this bad decision. Mr. Orbán has also argued that Ukraine should not get large funds from